You rolling? Hi, I'm Timothy Mitchell, the Practical Printer, and welcome to my print lab.
My name is Timothy Mitchell, and I am the Practical Printer, digital printing for practical people. I have as a guest today the wonderful, my friend, Bobby Cagle. Bobby, Mr. Wonderful, thank you for joining me. You are the North American Director of Sales. Is that correct?
That is correct for SAI Flexi software
SAI
and in-house
Flexi.
software.
Now, the official title is SAI Flexi and en route. I just know you guys as Flexi, colloquially, and I think everyone else in the U.S. probably, and the world probably does too. So I wanted to have you guys on because, I've been using Flexi for eons. It's one of my core relationships. I loved what you did, for example, with the print and cut. I still think the HP latex print and cut integrated with SAI Flexi was genius because you get two things you do really well. You get a great design program, which especially for newbies, for people who are new to doing things, it's way easier for me to show you how to learn. And then with guys like Mark Rugen on to really help them, to show people how to use Flexi Designer and get results versus learning Illustrator, for example. And then also, I prefer it. If I have a choice and you give me Illustrator and Flexi and I can run Flexi Designer, you give me both, I'll take Flexi Designer because it's faster and you have better tracing capability. Like for me to get my cut lines and everything on and get results, I get better results faster through Flexi than I'm going to get through Illustrator, in my opinion.
Right. And that's kind of our bread and butter, and what we've always done well is made it easy for the sign people to make signs. We're not an Illustrator program, and we're not trying to be. When there's things Illustrator does great, and we don't want to do those things. But what we want to do is allow you to make a sign and make it well and make it fast and make it the easiest thing to do. There's so many people that have Illustrator and also have Flexi both because they use both of them to create their graphics.
Correct. The thing is, and when I'm in the sign industry mainly, right? And so I would say 60% of the features in Illustrator are of very little value to me. They're of value to some other industries, I'm sure, but they're not much value to me because Illustrator is a for everyone program to do everything. And what I'm in is the sign and display business. And I want to make, for example, a lot of stickers. And in the case of our subject matter today, I think Designer is very complementary for DTF because you have a new DTF RIP that you've developed. And I think it takes advantage of a lot of the great features that I loved about working with the print and cut workflow translates really well to the DTF workflow because it's pretty similar. The sizes are similar, the approach is similar, and you have really nice features that I liked. For example, the way you display layering so that you can see what the layers are going to be because all DTF software is layer based. White is your foundation. And then you have something else which you do with files, particularly PNG files, which I'll let you explain.
Yeah, the one of the things a lot of RIPs out there are not allowing you to create the white layer by using the PNG transparency. So what we've been able to do, we have a tab specifically in our production manager that is a transparency tab for the DTF market. And it allows you to drop a PNG file directly into the production manager and tell it to use the transparency for your white layer. So therefore, you don't have to create a spot color. You don't have to create a white layer in your file. You just drop the file in there and boom, it instantly creates that white layer. You can set that up as a preset. So you can actually have that checked in a block. So when any file is dropped in that's a PNG, it automatically has that white layer and you don't even have to worry about it.
Very slick. I mean, that was one of those things that a lot of honestly, the Japanese companies completely overlooked. And for me, it was kind of a red flag of, do you fully understand the industry that you're serving here? Because the PNG file thing was the first thing I heard. Hey, how come I can't drop and I'm like, honestly, I don't know. But it seems like a pretty big oversight, because it's one of those core components of this particular industry. That you guys, I think, are going to serve really well. And you have a new software. Do you have a name for the RIP software version, or is it just sort of an option?
Well, all right. So our standard Flexi Complete, which is our full subscription software program, has that feature in it. But we also have a version that is called Flexi DTF DTG that is specifically for the DTF market. It'll allow you to run one printer and that's it. It's just a specific, you can print files and that's all you can do with it. If you need the more complex features like the print and cut and those kind of things, then you're going to need to go to the Flexi Complete side of it, which will allow
Okay,
you to add cutter drivers and different things like that.
cool. But what you're trying to do is create a DTG DTF version. So if
Hmm.
somebody wants to get into this market, and one of the things I think would be nice is you have a very large install base and a ton of people, especially small to medium shops all over the US and Latin America, where they already know the software, they're already familiar with it, and now they can just add their DTF printer to the
Hmm.
workflow and then still use the RIP that they know and love.
Exactly. It just drops right in there. One of the other things we did on that transparency DTF tab too is you have the ability to click a button and it will actually show you your white layer to make sure that your white layer looks the way you want it to look. And that's a really cool feature. A couple of versions ago, we didn't have that. You had to actually go to a separate section of the software to be able to see what your white layer looked like.
Right.
Now you can you're able to just click a button and it shows you the white layer. And then one of the other things that we've just recently added to this tab that, as I'm calling it, is the ability to knock out the shirt color of the graphic. So if you have a
Oh,
black
cool.
shirt that you want to, and your graphic has black in it, you can knock the black so it doesn't have to print the black ink.
Yeah, that's very clever. Why would you? I mean, you already have a nice black shirt. So you have an election to do that or not.
Yes. And then the one of the other things that we've recently added as well is the ability to add distress patterns or to remove, so the hand's not quite so heavy on the shirt. If you've got a big,
Sure.
heavy graphic, that gets really heavy. So a lot of people like to have that distressed look on their graphic. We have the ability you can custom make your own distress pattern or use some of the preset patterns that we already have in there.
Very nice. That's very clever. So you guys really dialed this thing in for the DTF market, knowing what people are going to want and use so that the software is highly compatible to their expectations.
Right. And we're
So,
making improvements on that side all the time because we understand that this is where a lot of our customer base, people who've had Rolands and Mimakis and things like that before, they're moving into this DTF market and we want to be able to be right there with them while they move into it.
okay. Let me ask you another thing. The uh, the drivers, I'm assuming you're compatible with all the standard Japanese OEMs. You
Mhm.
mentioned Roland and Mimaki for certain. You're working on
Yes.
an Epson driver.
Yes, that is correct. We're running the Mimaki DTF, the Roland DTF printer. And then as everybody probably knows, all the Chinese printers that are coming in.
Yeah. Now I'll
And there
admit,
are a
I'll
lot
be
of
very forthright. I'm a Chinese printer fan in this category.
them.
Like not in every category, but to me the
Yeah.
DTF industry is a Chinese development industry. That's where the innovation is coming from. They're all running i3200 series heads,
Mhm.
and they've got this thing down to an art form. And from what I understand, you guys have a pretty good integration with all those printers.
We do. We have a team in China that's working with a lot of these manufacturers. And so a lot of these printers actually that come over will actually come with a production manager, a RIP only copy of Flexi in the box with that printer. So what we have to do, can you run that with our Flexi Complete software? Probably, but we just got to figure out what name or what the manufacturer is of that printer so that we can then tell you which one to run in Flexi Complete.
But it sounds like you guys have a pretty good relationship with a lot of the Chinese manufacturers so
Yes, we
that,
do.
I think you were telling me a little bit about even developing a universal driver kind of thing for the 3200 series heads that you're working on.
Correct. Yes, we have an i3200 driver that's just kind of a generic driver that will work for a lot of those printers because most of them are fairly generic, fairly plug and play.
Yes.
They come
That's that's what I like about them.
the only
Ease of
difference is
use.
which software is the driver software because the way the DTF printers work, unlike the printers, the Roland, the Mimaki, the main board does not have the ability to control the print heads. So they're doing that through a separate software. So when we rip the software, we're ripping the file, basically preparing it. Then we send it over to whatever software they're going to be using to actually output to the printer that takes the place of the main board. And so we have to work with that software as well to make sure everything is set up correctly.
Okay. completely understand. Very nice. Um, in the industry for DTF, are you guys going to have, are there other projects that you're working on with this particular software in the DTF industry? Where do you kind of see the industry going, or what any new developments in the industry that you foresee?
Well, we're seeing this move more and more towards like the craft market, the smaller independent guys that are just maybe doing it out of their house or something like that.
Okay.
And to that end, we actually are developing a program called Flexi Online. And we're
Oh,
hoping to
cool.
have this program out by the end of the year. And the Flexi Online is basically going to allow the so you don't have to have the full version of Flexi, but it will be an online only version where you're not downloading it. It's a web based type program where you'll be able to use it with printers, with creating files and that kind of stuff to be able to run two different printer types.
Oh, that's very nice. That's very clever. I like that idea a lot. Okay, we're going to have a little discussion. I figure we may close on this. I am actually, surprisingly, a supporter of subscription-based RIPs. Okay,
Yeah.
and a lot of people be like, "What? What do you mean?" And I'm like, "No, no, really. I like the idea because when you buy it and own it, which
Hmm.
I have, what happens is everything is fine for the period I own it in that printer. But as time goes by and I upgrade my printer and other things, now, and it's not having nothing to do in many cases with SAI Flexi. It would be like the manufacturer, like Roland or HP says, "Hey, we have a new printer, but we need a new driver. We have new features. We need an upgrade. We're going to need an upgrade with Flexi to make this work."
Hmm.
And then your upgrade happens. And then you have to tell the customer, "Listen, the version you have isn't compatible with this new printer. We need you to upgrade." And then you hear them complain, "This is unfair." But that happens in every other market, everywhere else. It's like, look, your version of Windows doesn't work with, or your version of Word isn't going to work with Windows 11, and then you have to upgrade to get it. I think what I like about the subscription is it's a set rate for a set service, and then you have access to the very good support team in Salt Lake who can answer and help you and give you, s- legitimate support because that's built into the subscription model.
Yeah.
And then you guys can calculate how many people are subscribing, how much do we bring in, and how many support people do we need? Because that way you can kind of calculate and forecast properly. It's very difficult when you're purchasing and you have an erratic purchase of upgrades happening all the time. How do we keep our support team? And then people don't want to pay for support. Like
Yeah.
if you say, "Hey, we sold you this version," and then you want support indefinitely, I'm like, "No, it doesn't work that way. You have to buy support then." And then, you have this expectation that's unreasonable. And I think it creates a lot of missed understanding between the customer and the software manufacturer. So to me, subscription solves the problem with current updates on everything, including all your firmware and everything, and it also solves your support issue. Sorry to go on a bit, but I'm kind of doing your pitch for you. But did I mostly get it right?
Yeah, you did. You hit, we last year, I guess it was March a year ago, we moved our standard product line, the Flexi Complete line, Flexi Design, Flexi DTF, is all moved to a subscription product.
Okay.
And what that allows us to do, again, is always have new updates. We are actually now, we're updating our software. We're releasing a new build probably every 4 to 6 weeks. So we're putting new bug fixes, new patches, new
Correct.
drivers, new things into the software about every 4 to 6 weeks. And before, we would have to wait. We would have to maybe go 6 to 8 months to build up all of the features so that it was worth when somebody had to do the upgrade,
Yeah, yeah.
it was worth them paying for that upgrade. So we would have to hold, so you might have to go 6 to 8 months without a new driver in the software that had been released, 3 or 4 months ago. This
Sure.
allows us to be a lot more reactive, a lot more competitive. And so when you have our subscription product, you're always going to have the latest version, always have the latest build, always have the new printers. For example, the 3M Traffic just came out with a new their 730 and 830 printer. we were able to this week release the new version with those printers in it instead of having to wait 3 or 4 months before we do that. So it just gives us a
Yeah.
lot more ability to do that. And unfortunately, it costs a lot of money for programmers to develop all this stuff. It doesn't just happen. Everybody thinks, oh, well, I just need the new driver. Well, do you know how much time and effort it takes to create a new driver? It's not cheap, unfortunately. I wish it were, but it's not.
Okay. Well, look, I think your argument about the ongoing updates is very
Uh-huh.
valid. And I do know that, having been on a own it platform, that there would be things like, hey, you guys know you have these bugs. How come they're not being fixed? And not
Uh-huh.
just you, the other companies too would say, we have to wait. What we do is we accumulate them and then we do a major update, and the updates
Uh-huh.
happen over like 3 6 month periods. We don't just update
Right.
continuously because it causes confusion and chaos, right?
Uh-huh.
So we don't update all the time because that drives people crazy. Um, as a result, we have to let them accumulate. And then in some cases, we just build it into the next version. And then you have
Right.
to upgrade to get the next version. So that's, hey, we need another $1,000 for the next version. And I'm like, why don't I just, I
Uh-huh.
think, was it you that said we did a calculation over a period of time of own it version versus subscription version and said it's a wash anyway?
For over about 8 to 10 years, it pretty much came out to be a wash, or actually, it was even less expensive to own the subscription if you had bought it and just did one upgrade. And you would have had to have done at least maybe two or three over 8 years. But if you just did one upgrade and bought the software, it was going to be $300 less expensive over 8 years to do subscribe versus buy it. Plus, that gave you the ability to cancel it at any time you wanted, and you didn't have to outlay $5,000 or $6,000 up front and then wait. So you're just kind of paying for it as you use it.
Ah, exactly. Look, I think the subscription model makes sense. I know a lot of people don't like it. I think they need to reconsider. There are meaningful
Yep.
advantages to a subscription model. And if you look honestly across the entire software industry, everything is subscription.
Yeah.
There's very little, except some phone apps,
Well,
where you buy it once for,
and if you think about it, your phone's a subscription. Your TV, your
yes, it is.
Netflix is a subscription. Your Amazon Prime is a subscription. Everything is that you do nowadays is a subscription, and you pay for it as you go.
Okay. Well, congratulations on making the move. I know, I know it could be contentious in some places, but I do actually support it. It
Yeah.
makes sense, especially if you're always, you're buying new equipment here and there and you add new things. And every time they have new generations of printers, it introduces a new wrinkle and you start over and you have an upgrade right there. So you may as well just get the subscription. And I think it does provide for what I believe you guys have very good service. I mean,
Yeah.
anytime I've had to need it, the people that I've reached are knowledgeable, they're capable, I get responses early. And, I also think a lot of one of the things I've always liked about Flexi is you have very good online industry board support from people who are Flexi users who are very
Mhm.
engaged. And then you also have very good video and tutorial walkthrough from all of your professionals that you guys have made to show people how to do everything. So those are always been very big strengths, I think, with SAI. And that's why you have a very loyal customer base among small businesses in particular.
And we're probably the largest customer base of any of the RIPS, design programs out there. I mean, we're probably in 70 to 80, 90% of the sign shops in the market today.
Yeah, and there's a reason. And I think your DTF will be very successful because when they want to add a DTF product, all they have to
Mhm.
do is either have the full, your full version, or if they want to
Uh-huh.
just add this as a sideline, you can just add this in and be able to print to it. I also know you build probably some very nice profiles and everything that are all built into it as well.
Uh-huh.
Excellent.
That would be it.
Bobby, it's been a pleasure. I will see you, of course, in any other episodes because I'd love to have you on. SAI Flexi is a key component, in my opinion, on the software proposition for anybody doing anything in this country in the sign and display industry. DTF was one slice, but you guys also support UV, latex, um, solvent, aqueous, and every other kind of technology and printer and cutter under the sun. I'm a
Yep.
third-party software guy because I want to be able to mix and match any of my equipment in a way that integrates around the software. Software drives it all, and
Yep.
you guys are a key part of that. So, love to have you on as a regular guest. Anything you want to talk about, any new products, anything you guys think you do that noteworthy, by all means, come on board. And if I don't see you before then, I will definitely see you at Printing United, I'm assuming.
Definitely. Definitely be there.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks very much, my friend. Have a wonderful weekend. Thanks for joining the Practical Printer. You are welcome absolutely anytime. And if you're ever in the Georgia area, stop by. I'll take very good care of you. I promise.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right. Bye, Bobby.